Good evening, everyone. It is, what day is it? Thursday. No, it's a Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. And we are starting out our Pride Perspectives webinar this evening. The topic is our Global Collaborative Challenge, which you'll hear a lot about. It is a part of our Practicum for Civic Leadership. And I think one of the best things we do here at Trinity-Pawling. My name, I think I said Amy Foster. I work in the advancement admissions office and also in the Learning Commons. So both sides of the building, the main building that we are in. And we are thrilled that you're here tonight. We will answer the questions that you've submitted prior to the webinar, and then if there are any that don't get answered tonight, somebody from the admission office will be sure to get back to you with answers to those questions. If any questions arise during the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature down below, and we'll get to as many as we can. We have a packed night tonight. I think we're going to enjoy hearing from a lot of alums from all the way back. We'll use the Wayback Machine back to 2017, which was the very beginning of kind of the practicum. You'll hear more about that. And then some current seniors who just did the Global Collaborative Challenge last year as juniors. So without further ado, I will describe a little bit, as I said, the practicum is made up of 3 parts. The freshmen and sophomores do what we call winter projects during the winter session, which is the time in between our Thanksgiving break and our Christmas break, 2.5 weeks, where in prior years we used to start our winter term, do 2.5 weeks of material, and then do 2.5 weeks of material when we came back again in January, because the retention wasn't really great. So we have, you'll hear a lot of how this program has been tweaked and polished and you know, honed up over the last few years. And that's one of the main differences, is doing that all during winter session. The junior Global Collaborative Challenge is what juniors and post-grad students do during that time. And then the third option is senior independent projects. So you'll hear mostly about Global Collaborative tonight, but there are other parts that we will address in future webinars. So I would like to introduce Gabe Avis, who is the chair of the winter session. Is that what you were calling? He's with us tonight. Also Slade Mead, who's director of college counseling. So they are with me tonight leading the discussion. And then alums who have done what we considered outstanding Global Collaborative Challenges in the past. Will Rickert, and they'll actually tell you a little bit more about themselves, from the class of 19, Dennis Ilmella from the class of 17, Bo Hayutin also from 17, and the current students, Milan Kamene from class of 24, and JP Macriani. So we will introduce Slade Mead. I will introduce Slade Mead, and he was very pivotal in starting the GCC, the practicum, and will tell us more about how it's evolved over the years. Back to you, Slade.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, my name is Slade Mead. I'm director of college counseling. It's not a coincidence that 2 of the alums that I have invited tonight are from the class of 2017, because much of what we created, the Global Collaborative Challenge, was because of what these guys in the class of 2017 did. They were our guinea pigs. They literally were volunteers. We did not do it with the entire junior class that first year, but we worked around a structure and then threw these guys in the deep end of the pool. And we realized pretty quickly that we were onto something very special. And since 2017, the Global Collaborative Challenge, in many ways, it's the same today as it was then. They're 12-minute presentations. Each group will give 3 presentations, starting with a practice one, starting with a pretty good one and then finishing with the finale, which is outstanding. There's a lot of research involved. The kids are dealing with global challenging questions. We were talking about this before we started the webinar tonight. We have the legalization of drugs was one issue, sustainability of different energy sources was Dennis's. Will Rickert did one on the school shootings. So these are serious issues that these guys have to deal with and wrap their minds around. And they have to do it with a group of 4 or 5 fellow students that are randomly picked. And that's a key part of the process, because we don't want little niches of friends going together. We want you to have to work and collaborate with strangers sometimes and build a team in the 2 to 3 weeks that you have for the GCC. Now, this is where it gets very selfish. I wanted to bring in something like the GCC because as the college counseling office, I wanted some mechanism that would distinguish our kids from other kids. And the GCC is outstanding for 2 reasons. First is all these guys who are juniors are going to know something in depth about a global challenge. And one of the essay questions in the Common App, if you want to write about it, is discuss a major topic of concern of yours. I would argue we have 92 seniors this year who are experts from what they did last year on the GCC, if they choose to answer that question. And I've had colleges tell me, my God, how come your kids are so, how do they know so much about the great garbage patch out in the Pacific? How do they know so much about the gun epidemic going on in the schools? Because they did the GCC. And then the second thing, and this was just dumb luck, is we happened to have a world pandemic and the SATs and ACTs got canceled. And we were lucky in the sense that we had something completely different that allowed schools to judge our students in the admissions process when they had just lost the SAT, ACT as a benchmark. And I had no idea there was a world pandemic coming down the line, although that was a question in 2018, is how would you solve a world pandemic? And I would argue our kids came up with a better solution than what we did as a world. But reasonable minds can differ on that. I would love to have the alums just share a little bit about what their project was and how much did you know about the topic before you started, if you remember, and then through the 2.5 week or the process of building your final case, how did you become a bit of an expert? We can do this. You want to go age-wise? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Thank you, Bo. Introduce yourself, Bo, too.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Bo Hayton. I graduated in 2017. I'm from Denver, Colorado, still in Denver, Colorado. Went to Purdue University, got a construction engineering degree and an entrepreneurship degree as well. My GCC topic was the war on drugs. And I guess what we really focused on was marijuana and not too many other drugs. But what we did see was based between 2012 and 2016 in Colorado. Basically, we based most of our data off of that. And we did see that there were slight decreases in crime. And through my little bit of research I've done in the past couple of days, it's still holding true that crimes have gone down a little bit. But let's see. The 2 weeks that we did all of our research were pretty interesting. It was probably the most difficult thing was to set up everyone's schedules and make sure everyone could come and meet up. That was probably a really good thing to learn because in college, not everyone's schedules align. So that was a really good thing that I had. And I think it really taught me how to be a leader. When I showed up to college, I was socially beyond where my group members were. And like Mr. Mead alluded to earlier, it's really nice that these groups are random, because in college you don't get to choose who you work with, and in the real world you also don't get to choose who you work with. So the randomness of that was nice. And I would say myself and one other kid put in a lot more effort than the other two kids, but that kind of just happened. I also remember that two kids actually didn't even show up to our presentation. And that's part of being the guinea pig process. I don't know what they did. They were just late, but me and my other guy, we were able to see it to the end. I don't know if there's any other stuff, Mr. Mead, that I could touch on if you remember.
No, but you have touched on a very interesting point, is these guys get 12 minutes to make their final presentation. And if it starts at 7 o'clock, it starts at 7 o'clock. And
Yeah.
we've had situations where teams are like, well, wait a minute, we're missing a couple members. It's like, well, that's really too bad.
That's exactly what you told us. You were like, you got to do it. And I looked at my group, man, I was like, all right, we're going to do this. And
but you knew everybody's role.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. And I mean, we knew it from the back to the front, but you know, that's just a real world thing. I don't know, someone gets in a car crash and you have a really important presentation you have to make. Well, you still need to make it with or without your team members. So yeah, that was definitely challenging.
Yeah, and a lot has changed in the format since Bo did it, because that really was the guinea pig class. But Dennis, can you share, you were also in the guinea pig class, and if you remember, you said one sentence that I will never ever forget. You know what I'm talking about. Now, before you, I want the audience to understand, English is not Dennis's first language. And this is a very important piece of the puzzle, because all our students do the GCC. And for our international students, it's you know, it's hard enough to be a public speaker, but do it in a second language. It's absolutely remarkable how well our kids do. And Dennis came up with a line that I think was the translation in from Finnish to English or whatever his thought pattern was, but it is etched in my mind forever, about the elephant. So anyway, Dennis, I pass it to you with that teaser.
Yeah, I mean, if we go intro first, I'm Dennis. I graduated in 2017, did 3 years at TP, originally from Helsinki, Finland, but now in the UK, currently doing my postgrad. I did my GCC on global energy sustainability. In the beginning, I'd say there was kind of a buzz about renewables in general. So you had solar and wind kind of popping up all over the place. There was a bit of discussion about that, a bit of nuclear stuff going on as well, a lot of hydrocarbons as well. And kind of the transition from hydrocarbons over to renewables was our topic. Did it as a group work as well. Same challenges as Bo. We had a few who actually put in effort, and other who didn't really put that much in. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was the time management, because we were doing it on top of everything other that we were already doing, because we only had that winter period when we were doing it. I was already taking, I think, 6 or 7 classes at the time, so I had to budget everything around that. And the quote that Mr. Mead is referring to is about the pressure that you can put into a dam and the water pressure that goes in through the turbines, which was squeezing an elephant into a shoebox. And for some reason that still sticks, and that was probably one of the first things that you said when I called you about this panel discussion. So
it was a memorable moment, because you were trying to describe the pressure of a hydroelectric dam, and you're like, well, I did the math. You could put an elephant in a shoebox with the pressure coming through the dam. I was just like, that's the beauty of the translation, of the figuring it out, of trying to make an example. And you know, that was 9 years ago, 8 years ago, and I still remember your comment. It was great. Will, you want to share your experience with the war on drugs?
The school shootings, actually. That was.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, well, intro. My name is Will. I'm from Pawling, New York. I went to TP for 6 years. Went through the middle school. My brother went to TP. My mom, Andrea Rickert, went to TP also. And yeah, the global collaborative, it was tough, especially with, my topic. I think during that time, it was 2018. I think there was some shootings recently during that time. And yeah, just like everyone's saying, just the time management that you have to put into it, because we had classes and all that on top of it too. So like really kind of managing your time and getting together and figuring out how you're going to present this, to a pretty tough panel, like you're not just, presenting something that you're learning in class, or that you got to do this all by yourself, like with your team. So that was a big challenge, and like it's intimidating getting up there and like talking about a topic such as school shootings. Like you got to know your stuff, you got to come together, and we had a lot of problems. Like I remember, I won't say the name, but we had some heated discussions about like what we actually wanted to like say and come up with. So like that's a huge aspect of it, is coming together, being a team, and kind of formulating a final kind of product. And like I said, I forgot about those 3 or the 2 kind of practice sessions before, and those, that all just builds confidence into any public speaking that you're doing, like especially when you're put on the spot like that and with a sort of topic like that, it's tough. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm going to pass the baton on to Gabe, who is the director of the winter session. So, or Mr. Avis, excuse me. Mr. Avis, to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabe Avis, and among other things here at Trinity-Pawling, I run and I'm the director of our winter session, which, like Amy said, is the 2 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I think all educators will agree that 2-week time is could be an episode in a twilight zone where you are teaching, and in 2 weeks your students are gone for 4 weeks, and then you come back and you have to reteach a lot of the stuff you taught before they left. So valuable resources at institutions, the most valuable resource is time. And so at Trinity-Pawling, we have invested a lot of time and resources into building out this winter session programming. Amy alluded to how pretty much everyone on campus is doing winter projects and the GCC and the senior independent projects. So everyone during these 2 weeks are doing something active, engaging, and just getting them outside of the traditional classroom to sort of think differently and learn differently, which is the whole goal of the winter session. Catering more towards the GCC and the global collaborative challenge that we have. What does a normal day look like in the winter session for the GCC? Well, like everyone said, it happens in your junior year. And we also have this interesting sort of asterisk where a lot of our postgrad students join the GCC. And so they're initially placed in a GCC group, and it's just great to have postgraduates thinking about these questions along with their junior colleagues. And a day in the life of a GCC group, they are researching, especially in the first week or so, researching, meeting with Amy Foster to go over what ethical research looks like, how to do proper citations, because this is a very heavy lift for a lot of these juniors, probably the first real major research lift that they will experience. Which is a great catapult for them when they get into college in a year or so later. And then, like what the panelists have said, there's this huge component of public speaking and presenting. And to see the confidence, I think Will was talking about confidence, growing over the course of the 2 weeks, just in terms of presentation skills. I mean, for instance, one year, I think the panel will laugh at this. Last year, we had a teacher on the panel that was watching this, and I had no idea that this is true when it comes to presentations. But if you have a bullet point on a slideshow, you can't put a period at the end of your sentence. You just go right into the next bullet point. And I had no idea, as a teacher, I had no idea. So it's those small, very like nitpicky things that we get with a lot of these GCCs. So that's one major component. I guess the two major components being research and presentation skills that these juniors and postgrads walk away with. We sort of alluded to it earlier, and it's funny that we're having this today because yesterday I sent out the GCC groups, and like Slade said, they are completely random. I have our computer science teacher make a double random list, so it's truly random. And I sent it out right before lunch because I knew students would see each other at lunch and start meeting each other. And one aspect of the GCC is whoever gets me a selfie, a team name, and replies to my email gets the first pick of the questions for the GCC. And it's so funny just to see kids come up to me and be like, I don't know who this kid is on my roster. And I'm like, you got to go find him. You got to go email him. You got to go look for his photo. You got to figure this out on your own. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, that kid who came up to me found that student, and there's a selfie of them together, and voila, you have 4 or 5 students who have never met each other meeting each other, which is a great component of the GCC. And then I don't know if we've I don't think we've spoken about institutes yet, but at Trinity-Pawling, seniors and now juniors sort of declare a major here at Trinity-Pawling, and the majors, or what we call the Institutes for Active Learning, are 4. We have 4. One is entrepreneurship. Another institute for active learning is environmental stewardship. We have one on citizenship, and we have one on leadership. And a lot of these questions, all of these questions pertain to at least 1 or 2 of the institutes for active learning. So, we were just talking about energy, right? That question would definitely fall under the Environmental Stewardship Institute, maybe Leadership Institute, if there's some sort of foreign policy twist to that question. So we try to incorporate the Institutes for Active Learning with the GCC as well. So a lot of components going on. It's great to have those 2 weeks that these juniors can really delve deep into these questions. And like Slade said, they end in right around Christmas time, and starting that summer, juniors are starting their college, if not sooner, are starting their college interviews, they're starting their college essays. And for them to have a 6-month lead on their peers is very, very crucial. And like Slade said, really sets us apart. I have a brother in college admissions, and he talks about, we go back and forth all the time about this GCC, about the institutes, and just another thing that sets us apart and makes us a truly transformative education for our students.
Terrific. A question did come in, and I neglected to describe the winter project that happens with our middle school students. So our middle school are 7th and 8th grade students, and they are kind of self-contained in their own projects. This year, because the middle school is large, there are going to be 2 winter projects, but they are kind of with the same group as the 9th and 10th grade. So I apologize, I left those out. And Gabe, maybe you can ask the current seniors about their experiences last year, since it has morphed, as we said, the GCCs into the winter session, and the guys who were here so long ago had that GCC on top of all their current work, but maybe the seniors this year can talk a little bit about their GCCs and how it kind of worked time-wise for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we have Milan and JP on, so I guess, who's ever willing to go first, would love to just hear how you guys spent the 2 weeks what you learned about yourself, what you learned about your groups maybe, and also like what your question was too, because you both have some really interesting questions as well. So JP or Milan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll go first. Hi everyone. My name is JP Macriani. This is my second year here at Trinity-Pawling. And last year for my GCC, we worked on the topic of what role the government should play in social media and how that relates to the First Amendment. And my experience with our project was a little bit unique in the sense that we kind of had to analyze just beyond how we would target social media, but how other countries would tackle that issue as well. Because we didn't want to just look at it from our own perspective, as everybody in our group was American. We wanted to kind of look beyond the spectrum of what we're familiar with. So we looked at different countries around the world and different continents, and that was kind of just an interesting way to approach our problem, I think. And as a lot of the alumni have touched on, it was definitely huge for my group, especially just building leadership skills. And fortunately, everybody showed up on the day of our presentation, so we didn't have any hiccups there. But it was definitely a very positive experience all around, and we were able to make something really good out of it.
Hi, I'm Milan Kamana. It's my 4th year at Trinity-Pawling, and for our question that me and my group did, we had a question regarding NIL deals, which is how college athletes can get money kind of from like brand dealerships and selling their jerseys and stuff like that. And so for us, when we chose that problem, we had actually one of the later picks in the the draft of what question to get, but we were all athletes, and so that question kind of like appealed to all of us. And so when we got that question, we were all excited to go, and like we're all like, so like it was less than like just us researching and more just like figuring out like stuff of our interest, and like it really was something like more than just like researching and looking into like just one little thing, but it was more like something that we are all interested in. And so yeah, it was a lot of research in the beginning, but it was like fun research kind of. And so in that, it kind of flew by for us. We were just kind of going like just like getting our presentation done, researching, doing it, like kind of relating it to our own lives as well. And so it was really smooth for us as well. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you, guys. Now let's see if we can maybe cross with our alums, our older alums, and share with our current seniors some advantages that you might have felt. Well, I'm putting that word into your mouth. But how did you feel the GCC impacted your college experience? Are there any tips or specifics that you can share with not only these two guys and our attendees, but this is being recorded, so there will be other people who watch it as well. Would you guys care to take a stab at that?
Yeah. I mean, showing up to college, you are, I don't even know how to really say this, but light years beyond everyone's social capabilities. People show up to college and they do not know how to interact and speak to people. And that is vital. Like, communication is the most important thing, and I think that's the most important thing you gain out of this. You need to sit down, create a group me, text message group, whatever it is, but you guys need to start talking and planning. And I think that's what I took away from this. Had I had better communication, maybe I could have convinced the two group members of mine that were kind of slackers to be a little bit better, or even show up or something like that. I should have known where they were sleeping. I would have dragged them out of bed, something like that. But I mean, that will set you up for success in college. Just knowing everything, asking too many questions is good. Being overly prepared. And, when you get to college, know that you have this upper edge and take charge, lead, and just do what you normally did at school, just with other people. But if you can do that, you're going to be so successful in life. I mean, you guys are young, so just realize that and just keep going with that, and know that this is a strong foundation and keep building upon it. But like, don't be afraid, just keep speaking, keep talking, and just know that, you came from TP, and Mr. Mead and Miss Foster really are teaching you guys good things. So just know that you're better than everyone else when you show up to college, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd also add on that like everything is much easier than you'd expect after TP. Like after going through the whole ordeal over there, in going through the project work, showing up and actually doing group work and project work at college, university, super easy. It comes much more naturally to you. And I mean, actually, funny story, I was asked about global energy sustainability in a interview, like at a work interview, just this past year. In the early year, I was interviewing for a infrastructure and investment fund, and they asked how like the whole landscape of global energy has changed and how that has influenced. So I was kind of at an advantage actually, because I had already done a lot of studying on it ever since at TP, and like kept tabs on it from there on out. So it definitely helped me there.
Sure. One thing for you, 17 and Will too, the gifts and talents, you know, we've kind of honed in on that verbiage too, discovering your own gifts and talents during the time that you're at TP. Do you feel that this process helped you discover something about yourself that you didn't know?
I don't know about discover something else. I mean, I think it just taught me that if other people aren't going to do it, you're going to do it, or you're not going to succeed. So
Okay.
that's going to follow you into college and into the real world. You can rely on nobody but yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, like going off of that, not only just the GCC, but a lot of other projects throughout TP, like it teaches you a lot about sort of improvised public speaking and problem solving. Like at least throughout my college career, like there is, like looking back on it, I didn't really think about it, but there are so many occasions where they're just like, all right, you like get in a group with like the people you're sitting next to in college. Like if you're in a big lecture, they're like, all right, like the two people sitting next to you, like you're in a group and you gotta like, you know, figure out something. And I felt like totally comfortable with that. And like I credit a lot of that to TP, and just I found myself taking the lead on a lot of that. Like I would be leading the conversations, being like, all right, guys, like, you know, like Bo was saying, like setting up a group me or a group chat or something, and like kind of taking the lead, because you know a lot of people, they didn't have this kind of stuff in their high schools, like these big projects where you got to link up and communicate with each other. So like that gave me a real upper hand. Just felt like I've been in this position before, and I can take this on and I can lead it. And yeah.
I want to jump back in here. I think a really good thing that I learned from this is delegation, delegating work to others. I took this to college for sure. I mean, you can work harder, not smarter all the time. So I worked smarter and I didn't have to work all that hard. If I delegated these things to my certain group members and had them do it, well, I didn't have to do it. So that was a really nice thing in my college senior projects. Like I took lead and told everyone where I thought you guys were good, and they would go do the work. And that was kind of my job. So that was a nice thing to take with me. So, yeah.
Amy, can I share something, sort of a philosophy, and this is behind the scenes from the faculty side. There are 3 presentations, and the first presentation, it's usually pretty bad. And the presentations for the GCC are in a 12-minute window, and you'll have a group make a 3-minute presentation, or you'll have them start and they're only halfway through and they hit 12 minutes. The judges, the faculty, by design, are pretty critical. And we do that on purpose. We are not going to sugarcoat it. You know, guys, look, you need to get this going because you have another presentation now in 3 days, and you need to work on this, this, and this. So I think a lot of times it's hard for people to take constructive criticism, and it's a valuable lesson to learn. And if they don't make the adjustments in the second presentation, we're coming right back at them. But usually you see a huge jump. But the second presentation, I'm kind of telling you guys the secret sauce here. You want to do a little praise now. Wow. Take it further. The third presentations, some of them are so well done. They're usually 11 minutes and 45 seconds to 11 minutes and 59 seconds. Although Will Rickert pulled one of the greatest moves of all time. his group finished at 11:31. I remember this vividly. And Scott Harf, who was a faculty member, said, well, are you guys done? And I think Will said, why? How much time do we have left? And he said, well, you're at 11:31. And Will said, well, in conclusion. And he took it right up to 11:59. And well, you know, Harf and I were like, that's just too good. It was like, we're going to use every opportunity to make the perfect presentation.
That's great. Do any of you, either the current seniors or the alums, have any other things that we haven't asked about your experience there? What kind of impact this experience had? Any transformational experiences that we might have not alluded to yet? Does anybody else have anything to add, or we'll move on?
Yeah, in my group, just kind of touching on the fact that we have 3 opportunities to present in front of a teacher. We took advantage of the fact that during our 4-hour slots, kind of in that second week towards the end of it, we spent the majority of our time actually in the lecture hall, just rehearsing time and time again to get it perfect. And we kept on timing each other. And like, I just remember, you know, if one guy would go just beyond 3 minutes, we had 4 people. So 12 divided by 4. If a guy would go beyond 3, we'd all be hounding on him like, you got to get that down, man. Like, otherwise we're not going to make it. We were all so stressed out about it. But I think at the end of the day, we were all super satisfied with the way ours came out. And I think it was a very positive experience for us to kind of be able to recognize that if 3 is not enough for us, we need to make more opportunities for ourselves to succeed at the end of the day.
Yeah, I could also add that like doing it it was probably the first time I was actually doing a proper research project. So after that, it allowed me to actually dive deep and critically analyze other topics and research them as well. And it came a lot quicker because having done it already once, I knew exactly what other points you can use and what to actually look at other problems, which has really helped ever since.
Great. As you continue your educational career. That's terrific. Good. Well, I'm going to change over to our submitted questions and see what we've heard. Okay, this is a good one. I think, Slade, you talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but college counseling for seniors and the GCC. Do you want to tie that back in for this parent?
Sure, and I don't know if the parent has already gone through it with an older child or not, but so I apologize if this is, you already kind of know this, but the common application is used for about 99% of the schools that our kids are applying to. And there's an essay involved. It's 650-word limit. And as I alluded to at the beginning of the evening here, your essay, there's 7 different topics to choose from. And one of the topics is, you know, what is a major issue, a world issue that's of importance to you? And a lot of high school kids do not answer that question. In fact, that's the least answered question of the 7. Trinity-Pawling is answered probably about 15% of the time, which is much higher than the national average for that question. And what the kids do, and it's perfectly legitimate, is they talk about the GCC issue that they've become experts on. And I also see it with interviews. Colleges, they don't do as many interviews as they used to, but those colleges that do have interviews, often in a college interview, a question will come up of, is there something in the world that concerns you? And I had a Hobart rep. I had a Hobart rep who I think had to go into therapy after meeting our kids. She comes up, she met 6 kids one night, and all 6 hit with 6 different GCC issues. And she comes out, she's like, "Pah!" You know, one kid's worried about whether we should have term limits on the United States Supreme Court. Another kid's worried about sustainable energy of the future. We got another kid who, and she's just like, what are you feeding these guys? it's a tool that is so effective, and public speaking is often ignored because people are scared of it, and it's not fun to teach it. You get a lot of pushback, but as JP alluded to, boy, they're spending a lot of time practicing it, and when they get to that final third presentation, there's not nerves of public speaking at that point. And Bo's made a couple points about how some of his guys didn't show up, and that was the first year, right? It was a little bit of a circus act, but everybody, and I think everybody on this panel will definitely agree, can substitute for the other person because they know the topic that well. And that's a huge boost of confidence. And I want that confidence, going back to the college question, to be part of the application process. I want our kids to be able to confidently have a discussion with an adult in an admissions office on a major topic, or if they choose to use it as an essay question.
Thank you. Another question I think lends itself well to describing how the practicum and our institutes support, and I would say enhance, our curriculum, because the question is there a civics education class? And I know I used to teach it, I taught briefly in a public school where there was a government class. I would say that our institutes, as well as the things like the Global Collaborative Challenge, share a lot of the same information as a civics class. And I'll give you an example. In the Learning Commons just this weekend, so Saturday programming during the school year is devoted to our institutes for the most part. We don't have classes on Saturday mornings anymore. I know alums get upset by hearing that, but we now do Saturday programming, and it allows us to do such enriching activities led by the institutes. 2 institutes take turns each Saturday morning, divide the student body. The seniors do the planning for their institute and create activities and exercises for the younger kids to do on the Saturday mornings. And then they rotate. So they rotate around and everybody gets the same experiences. This past weekend in the Learning Commons, the Citizenship Institute was hosting a Jeopardy game on citizenship. So there were a lot of questions. The kids didn't really realize that they were, in a civics education class in the Learning Commons in a much more engaging way than just in a classroom. So if that question is sufficiently answered, if it's not sufficiently answered, let me know. I think that's
Amy, can I add something?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to embarrass one of our members. Dennis did his senior independent project on something that affects everyone in Trinity-Pawling today. Talk about a civics lesson. Dennis was asked a very smart question. Back in 2016, the ACT was not given in the state of New York in January. Right. It's given in 49 other states, but not New York. And Dennis, being the curious Finn that he is, was like, why can't I take the test in January? I was like, well, there's a law. New York doesn't have it. They were kind of complicated. And he's like, well, that's ridiculous. So his senior independent project, you want to tell him what you did, Dennis?
Yeah, I did a petition for New York state government to actually.
He petitioned the chairs of the. He petitioned the chairs of the Senate and the General Assembly, and the law got through the committee chairs that had been blocking it because you did it through the high schools, and about 20,000 signatures came in from kids who are 18 and older saying, hey, we vote and we want the test given in January. And it had been log jammed by this one member of the legislature who was the chair, and Dennis got it through. And Dennis, I don't know if I told you this, but I went to a conference 3 years later at Marist, and one of the discussion points was the ACT. And the guy says, not knowing I'm sitting there, he goes, oh, the ACT you can now take in New York because some high school kids somewhere got all upset and started a petition. That was Dennis. I mean, I've never been so proud in my life. But you want to talk about civics and the practicum.
Real world, yeah.
He affected the state of New York and every high school student in the state of New York. And it's still in place, Dennis. I mean, what you did is the policy of the state of New York. Well done. Pretty
cool, yeah. Terrific. So our next question is, what activities are there, and do you get to choose which one you do? So I think we answered that. If you're referring to the activities of the winter session of the GCC in particular. If not, then shoot a question into the Q&A and we will elaborate. But you do get to choose. Gabe, maybe you want to just summarize that again real quickly, how that relates to the GCC, and if it's different from that, then let me know.
Yeah, just real quick, faculty come up with these worldly, global focused questions, and then the randomly generated groups will meet next week, Tuesday night, and we'll kind of have a draft of questions, and the first pick overall, they get to pick all of the any of the questions that are in the list, and we'll just work our way through pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, all the way down. So there is their first real collaboration after getting the group together, which is the first one. Their second collaboration is deciding, all right, 4 of us, what question do we want to delve into for 2 weeks? Because you're locked in to that question for 2 weeks. So you got to hope that the remaining questions, or the question that you picked, is obviously something that you're interested in, or not. Maybe it's something that you have no idea. Like Milan talked about the NIL, the name, image, and likeness. Maybe you have absolutely no idea what that is, and you just go for it. So it's really up to the groups to decide and collaborate which questions they want for the GCC.
Yeah, we had no clue what it was. None of us had any idea, but it was about college athletes. So we're like, let's go for it. And then we loved it. It was so fun to learn about. So yeah.
You bring up a great point, because the name, image, and likeness is such a new thing, new entity. I mean, we're still talking about it to this day. I'm reminded last year, and I knew this was going to happen when I saw the question. There was a question about Brittany Griner and how the U.S. should go about Brittany Griner's prison sentence in Russia. And on the second to last day of the winter session, I'm walking into chapel and I look at my phone. I get an ESPN notification saying Brittany Griner released from Russian prison. And that GCC group the next day had their final presentation, and at their last possible slide, they threw in this is what we thought they should do, and this is what they did, and they were really, really close, actually, really, really close. So these questions have answers, and they have real world implications. So it's the most exciting part about the GCC is these questions are very much tangible.
Well, Gabe, to piggyback on that, I had a group one year where there were 5 of them, and the question was, should the Electoral College be abolished? 3 of them thought it should be, and we should go to a direct vote. 2 of them were very much, no, it's a great system and it protects, certain states. They couldn't come together, and I'm like, look, you guys got to come together on this. And we spent 2 days. I'm just glad there weren't knives in the room, because they fought it out. And then once they took it to a vote, it was 3-2. The other guys fell in line for the presentation. And it was fascinating, because that happens in real life. Sometimes you have to make a presentation and you may not be fully committed to the team's point, but you're on the team. And I was more proud of those 2 guys. I knew they were dying inside because they didn't believe in the group's answer, but they delivered it with such conviction that you would have no idea that there was this internal strife. It's a very interesting dynamic to watch high school kids have to work on these projects.
Kind of like a debate a debate team. You have to present both the pro and the con argument. So that's something. It's also, I just wanted to say, because Gabe, you mentioned about the competition in the draft. This is how many boys, I would say almost most boys like to learn, competing with one another and, and going for the prize and getting that first answer. And it's so much fun to see them, running. I could tell yesterday when the questions came out, because they're running through the learning commons and we got to go find so-and-so and we got to find so-and-so. This is what they like, and it makes the learning active and engaged, which is certainly one of the goals. And then our final question from the parents ahead of time is, how does this get graded? Which is a great question. So I don't know if you, Slade, or you, Gabe, want to take that on, and how does it get graded and on the transcript? That's a good.
Yeah, Gabe, why don't you do how the 3 different practicums get graded, and then I can explain the transcript.
Yeah, so we have some pretty extensive rubrics that follow our portrait of graduate here at Trinity-Pawling. Some of it dealing with communication skills, self-awareness, collaboration is one of the pillars of a portrait of a graduate. So our faculty grade each student based off of a rubric based on our portrait of a graduate. And on their transcript, on our transcript, or on the students' transcripts, for the practicum, they will receive a high pass, a pass, or a low pass. So there is a grade aspect to this because we think it's just as important as any other class. We do the same thing with our institutes. We have grades for our institutes for active learning. And on top of that, there is also a comment piece that our faculty write for our students. So a lot of the faculty will, write about pertaining to the GCC, talking about maybe the growth that the student or the teacher saw in the student with their communication skills, or, how they saw literally and physically their self-awareness begin to blossom in the 2 weeks working on the GCC. So like I said, with time and the investment of time, we also invest a lot of time with feedback to our students that ends up on the college transcript at the end of the winter session. So, yeah.
And our transcript is designed now so that the practicum question, or the GCC question that a student tackled, is written on the transcript in a short little description, and it's linked to what's called our school profile. So the colleges, for instance, can see that Milan did a project on the NIL, and then so his transcript will say Global Collaborative Challenge NIL project. Then the college can go and look at the school profile, and it'll say NIL project. They discussed the pros and cons of whether the NIL is a good idea, or whatever the question was. So it puts it in context for the college. Now, what we also do is every student, I don't even know if JP and Milan know this, there's a letter that goes out called the Secondary School Report, which is the holistic letter of a kid, not what they're like in the class. That's a teacher recommendation. What are they like outside the class? Well, the practicum is considered outside the class for the Secondary School Report, and there will be a paragraph in there saying, Milan last year as a junior with a group of 4 strangers came together and had to do a 12-minute presentation on the NIL, and they had to make this public speaking 3 presentations. So we use it from the college office a lot to sell the student, sorry to make you guys sound like a commodity, but to sell the student to the college. And even going back to Bo, when he was applying to Purdue, and Dennis went to school in England, and to Will at UVM, those schools knew when they accepted these guys that they had been involved in this project, whether it was at a winter session, at a global collaborative challenge level, or then their senior independent project. So the school uses it in the college process extensively.
Great. Well, we normally run right at an hour, and we are just under an hour. So I'll use Will's lead and say if there's anybody who would like to summarize or add any other thought on, or if there are any parent questions, be happy to entertain those. Do any of you guys have any closing comments? If not, we can wrap it up in just under an hour, which is perfectly fine too, for all of us to get on to our evening. We really appreciate your time. I think, and I do, these webinars occasionally. I think this was one of the most informative and will be referred to a lot for current parents and future parents to learn exactly what the GCC is all about. And do stay tuned. We will have, this is the last of our fall term webinars. We will have more coming in the winter term, so keep an eye on your inboxes or on our website for notification about those. But to Bo and to Dennis and Will, not only is it awesome to see you guys always, but thank you so much for giving your time from, let's see, how many hours to the west and how many hours to the east, so different times of the day. Thanks so much for joining us today. And then for JP and Milan, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening, the last week of exams or the last week before exams. And there is maybe one question coming in, so I'm going to hold on. Oh, that's just a thank you. Thank you so much to everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon for our next Pride Perspectives webinar. Thanks so much, guys. Bye now.